many of you don't know the type of landscape we're living in academia. And so by offering you some very vivid examples, hopefully it will contextualize for you how the winds are blowing. So Laura Kipnis, does anybody know that case? Laura Kipnis is a professor of, I think, film studies and media at Northwestern University. So she wrote an article where she was rebutting this idea that, you know, women are being raped all over campus. And by the way, she's an ardent feminist, right? She's a woman, she's an ardent feminist, so she holds all of the correct identity politic chips on her side. She wrote an article where she was trying to put in context that, you know, maybe we need to sort of get a bit of a grip, that it's simply not true that there's this massive, you know, gang rapes going on everywhere, right? Well, students filed a Title IX charge. Title IX is a federal statute or act that basically says that you cannot deny, you know, access to education for people based on their race and ethnicity and gender and so on. And the fact that she had written an article as an academic to rebut their position was threatening to them. So her expressing an alternate position was threatening. They would feel unsafe, and hence they wouldn't be able, and future students wouldn't be able to safely attend this university because of the position that she had taken. So to argue against somebody else's position becomes a form of assault that should be punished. Not good. Let's look at the next one. It turns out, by the way, that being respectful and kind is a form of racism. So let's look at this one from Queen's University. So Anisa Rouhani decided to wear a hijab for, I think it was 18 days, to see how people, she's an Iranian woman, but I think she's either Zoroastrian or maybe Christian. I can't remember exactly what she is, but she wasn't a Muslim woman. And she wanted to wear a hijab to see how people would respond to her when she wore a hijab. And it turns out that, to her surprise, she found that people were very kind and polite to her. Now, of course, what I would come with the conclusion, if I have a functioning brain, is that, well, maybe there aren't massive number of rabid KKK racists walking around everywhere. But she couldn't have that conclusion. It turns out that this overt tolerance and kindness is a manifestation of overcompensating for people's latent bigotry and intolerance. Being kind and tolerant is racist. In other words, by people being polite, kind, gracious with her when she was wearing a hijab, the only possibility is that they were compensating for the latent hatred that they had in their heart. Therefore, all roads lead to racism. If I am racist, I'm racist. If I am kind, gentle, tolerant, and non-racist, I'm racist. How could I not be a racist? I can't in the world of modern academia. One of the dangers of trigger warnings, not trigger warnings, of thought police and political correctness, is that people engage in self-censorship, right? You may not see this, right, because it's latent, right? So before you open your laptop and start writing that article that you want to publish on Huffington Post, you have to think, oh, should I do it, or will the social justice warriors come after me? My wife will often come nervously behind me when I'm working on my laptop, and she looks nervous. She says, oh, well, what are you writing? And I said, well, I'm writing something. What is it? And she'll say, remember, we have 2 children. Now, the fact that a mother could look to her husband in the 21st century in Canada, he's a professor, and she's arguing, please be careful with the words you use because we have young children. She's not saying this because she's some, paranoid lady who's unaware of the realities of life. That's, right? That's the proverbial canary singing in the coal mine, right? I mean, that's saying something quite profound about the type of environment that we live in, where you have somebody who is afraid for the safety of their children. This is precisely how totalitarian anti-liberal ideologies flourish. Number one, if they can, in certain places in the world, they simply literally behead you. Say the wrong thing and you're dead. Now, in the West, you can't do that yet. But what you can do, you could behead them in other ways. You could behead them by stifling them through various non-violent means. You could harm somebody's reputation. So Richard Dawkins, many of you know him, right? You can't behead him in the West, but you certainly can try to tar him. You could try to make him out to be a neo-Nazi, hateful, racist bigot. He's none of those things. He's about as liberal as you can get. You could go for Sam Harris and say that he is a Dr. Mengele, Hitler-type guy. He's none of those things, right? And of course, you could create a climate of fear where you just censor yourself. And then that's it. We don't have to worry about you saying anything that is against our ideology. Healthy societies, I don't mean to moralize, but it's very important, especially in the context of the Institute for Liberal Studies, to remind people of these. Healthy societies are precisely those that are unapologetically free. That's how you establish that a society is healthy. When you go to see your physician, there are a few very quick metrics that he or she can take to determine your sort of basal level of your health, right? Let's check your weight, let's check your blood pressure, let's do a quick blood work to see your cholesterol score, let's check your blood sugar, and hopefully we have a good baseline to know if you're heading down the right path. Well, if you want to do a similar, quote, medical test on societies, look to see how free they are, how much economic, political, religious, sexual, reproductive freedom, and so on they have. All of those freedoms, none of them can happen, none of them can be protected without freedom of speech. That's the one from which everything else flows. What political correctness does is it attacks that fundamental freedom. It is an affront to freedom of speech to be constantly shackled by the fears imposed upon us by the politically correct thought police. So we need to eliminate all forms of thought policing. And I'm already seeing a greater number of people that are gaining courage to speak out against some of these movements. One of the things that I say with regret is true about me is that I'm one of the few academics that is so openly, exhibiting disdain for all of this. It shouldn't be so surprising that an academic gets up and says, hey, it's enough, right? Yet most people are afraid of their shadows. Most people are careerists. They're afraid that if they utter the wrong word, how will this affect my career? So they stay quiet. What we need to do is freedom of thought and freedom of speech, as I said, are the two most fundamental human rights. They are the bedrock on which Western liberties and freedoms have been enshrined. No more campus speech codes. Campus speech codes are an affront to our most fundamental liberties. Nothing is out of bounds. Either you're free or you're not. We should promote vigorous intellectual debates. We should seek intellectual diversity. All ideas, beliefs, and ideologies are open to criticism, debate, mocking, ridicule, and other forms of scrutiny. Nothing, no one, no ideology gets a free pass. And finally, we should eradicate the ethos of coddling and infantilizing university students. No safe spaces, no trigger warnings, no microaggressions, no cultural appropriation, no special privileges based on identity politics. Liberal societies believe in the sanctity of the individual and not in the non-equal treatment of groups rooted in oppression Olympics and victimology poker. Thank you very much.